Israel's most senior government officials. Nor can there be any dispute about the...
Well, that's a brief bit of what's happening in the ICJ, the International Court of Justice at The Hague. Let's get some reaction to it and bring in Alanna O'Malley. She's an associate professor of international history at Leiden University in the Netherlands and an expert in the UN. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Alanna, what's your assessment then of what you've heard so far? Day one, of course, of 5, so early stages of what is going to be an awful lot of evidence.
Right, so we see a number of different things being emphasised in the statements of the councils before the court this morning. The first one is Israel's illegal occupation of the occupied territories and of Gaza. And in particular, what we just heard emphasised was how Israel has violated the previous orders of the court by not halting the military campaign and by not supplying the requisite aid and relief to the now besieged people of Gaza and of the occupied territories. But we also have heard an emphasis this morning on the protection of UN personnel, on the immunity of those personnel when they're employed. In particular, of course, this refers to Israel's treatment of the personnel and of the UN Relief and Works Agency, which has come under sustained attack and obviously sustained criticism from Israel. And we've also heard the various ways in which Israel has failed to oblige by its obligations under the Charter. That is, as a member state of the UN, Israel is obliged to both protect or to oblige by the provisions of the court to supply humanitarian aid, but also to protect UN personnel. And the contributions this morning have really focused on Israel's multiple violations of these particular provisions.
Right, and given that Israel has imposed a blockade of all humanitarian aid since March the 2nd, so nearly 2 months now, evidence on that particular point you would suspect will be overwhelming. When is it that we will hear evidence in the defence of Israel, so to speak? Presumably that'll be from the United States. And will they be backing up or trying to prove their claims that UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, was indeed harbouring Hamas operatives?
Well, we have to wait and see what the US are going to say, and they're going to make their statement quite shortly. But what we can anticipate is that, Israel have been very clear that they will not supply aid and have not done so since 2nd of March, as you emphasised, until there is a release of hostages by Hamas. And so really what Israel has tried to do is try to kind of fudge together its obligations as a member of the UN with this ongoing peace and negotiation process that's taking place in the background. And the United States, we can anticipate that they will make similar arguments that they've made before in defense of Israeli actions by emphasizing Israel's right to self-defense, but also by talking about the ways in which the situation has evolved. And so we might expect that the United States will point to how Israel has tried to meet these obligations, how Israel has reflected some practices in this regard and reflecting some good faith, but it's very difficult to weigh that up against their kind of consistent violation of the rights of the Israeli people and of the Palestinian people. And we heard some pretty shocking evidence there from the Palestinian representatives about the kind of statements that have come from Israel in terms of the aid supply and in terms of their kind of statements of not continuing or not obliging with the continuation of aid. So it'll be interesting to see what grounds the US bases its defence of Israel on.
OK, Alanna, for the moment that is very interesting, and thank you very much indeed for your analysis.